It is 1 singular degree this morning and about 20 in Grey Knob, so I'm getting the fire going. This is our little snow plot science corner. This is our snow accumulation measure tool. So we're at about 14.75 inches. And since yesterday, about 2.5. I forgot the shovel, but we have to clear off our snowboard. Everything's so cold this morning. My water was starting to freeze over. It's colder than I've experienced it here at all, so a little bit interesting. It's that time of day, around 9:20 in the morning, when I spend the next 4 hours just sitting here reading. So I finished the book Mountain Voices, and now I'm on to this grand and magnificent place. It's actually really amazing, detailed history of the White Mountains, really well written, and I'm learning a ton. You might think to do this job you need to be tough and mountain weathered and strong, and I do think you have to be those things, but you also have to be very much a granny. A lot of this job is granny vibes, just sitting by the stove in a rocking chair reading a book. Okay, so as part of doing the weather, we have to do this rather scientific melting of the snow using warm water and then measuring the density of the snow. So this is my first time attempting it, but we're going to see how it goes. Noah gave us this manual, which is really helpful, and we've got some guidelines in here. So we have this big tube that we put outside and it collects snow, and we have a smaller tube. Fill that with some measured amount of warm water, and then we pour the warm water into the big tube and swirl around till all the snow is melted. Then we measure the new amount of water and subtract the added amount. Makes sense. Let me bring this over here so you guys can see a little bit better. Let's see how much we got. 6.4. And this is our outer tube where we collected the snow. I burned myself enough on the stove, you know? And kind of swirl it around till it all melts. Let's see what we're at now. This is kind of exciting. It looks like about 7 1/4. We did it. I can record that difference in the amount as the water equivalent of snowfall. That's a good strong coffee. I will say that. It's very chilly in here. I think it's 23, and it's about 17 outside, so that's not great. It's not a great ratio. it's been still very wintry. I tried to stay in bed as long as I could this morning because it's the one place where my entire body is warm. Versus when I'm out here, usually like this side, whatever side's closest to the stove is warm and then the other side isn't, which is fine, but sometimes we like a nice evenly distributed warmth. Time to clean the solar panels off. Welcome to the perch. This is our 3-sided lean-to and 4 tent platforms. It's about 0.7 miles from Grey Knob, so I make that trek every day. And it's beautiful. Views of Jefferson the whole way. Kind of on the edge of the ravine, Cascade Ravine. I'm gonna do a little shoveling. So much snow. No much snow. Headed out to the quay, out of breath. Jerry said there's an incredible undercast and she showed me a video, so I hope it is still there. One of my favorite parts of being a caretaker up here is getting to dedicate so much time and energy into creative things like photography, making videos like this, and reading, learning about the history of this region. Right now I'm reading This Grand and Magnificent Place, and it is just an incredible history of the White Mountains as humans have interacted with it, starting with the Abenaki. And right now I'm learning about the Weeks Act, which many of you probably know established the White Mountains and permanently conserved it by having the federal government buy up parts of it. This was really a radical act that was passed in the early 1900s, and prior federal policy and state government policy had been to actually sell off publicly held land because they were trying to stimulate economic growth. And the Weeks Act did the opposite by having the federal government buy lands for public use and try to conserve it from the logging interests that were destroying the mountains. They were logging way up the sides of mountains, and this logging would erode the soil. Slash would just be left everywhere, which was making fire a big problem, and the fires would burn the soil and destroy the organic compounds in the soil that like allowed for regeneration of trees. So it was kind of a vicious cycle. The Weeks Act really marked a turning point in America's view of conservation and wilderness and how we should interact with it. And it was really a miracle that it happened. It gives me a lot of hope. We can protect our world. One of the first purchases that the Weeks Act resulted in was the purchase of the slopes of the northern presidentials. That's the land, of course, which we sit on now up at Grey Knob. The slopes of the northern presidentials, it was one of the first acquisitions by the federal government to create the national forest.